My father, when he was my family, they're from the islands of Vietnam. So a lot of things that happened with the French colonization, the islands didn't really receive a lot of that bad treatment. So they were pretty neutral. But I guess growing up, my father decided to head to the mainland. This was like towards the end of the war. Like I think the year actually Saigon fell. He signed up for the military, underage, 16, lied about his age, but there was no paperwork in Vietnam. Like he lived in a grass hut on islands. Um, and he just told me that when the Americans left, the North took over. Everybody that was considered or that was a military age that wasn't the North Vietnamese Army or the Viet Cong, they were rounded up and thrown in prisons. Sorted out. Officers were obviously sent to re-education camps or killed.
Right,
The
right.
soldiers were just put in re-education camps, but at that time they didn't know what was going to happen to them. Him and some others were in a bamboo cage in the jungles. The story he told was that they dug a hole under the bamboo fence, escaped. They stole a boat, and he sailed back to his home island. And from there, him and he gathered my mother, some uncles, some of his cousins, and was trying to convince everybody that hey, like we lost the war. The North, they're coming and invading. They're going to be here soon. And
Yeah,
some people like ignored him. Some people just said, "Yeah, it is what it is. We'll just endure. This is our home." And my father, just being afraid of what might happen with the communists taking over, just him and my mother and uncles and cousins went on a boat, and they were part of what a lot of people known as the boat people.
yeah.
And they headed to Indonesia, where there was an American air base. And then from there, they spent a year there. Um, and then a Catholic family, a Russian Catholic family. They were Russians. Like their family came here like in the early 1900s, like when the communists took over in Russia, and people were fleeing there. So they were kind of sponsoring immigrants to America that were fleeing communism because they understood what it was like. And I believe they were originally sponsoring a Chinese family, but something happened either where they couldn't make it or maybe they decided to live in Taiwan or something. And then my family's name came up, my dad's name came up, saying, "Hey, these people are Vietnamese. They're fleeing communists. They're not Catholic or Christian. Do you guys still want to sponsor them?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." Like they didn't care, and they after a year being in Indonesia, um, they brought him over and they asked my father like, "What kind of profession did you do before the war?" And he said, "I was a fisherman. Like everybody on my island were fishermen." So they sent him to New England, New Bedford, which is one
Oh,
of the
wow.
largest fishing harbors in the country. So that's how we ended up there. Well,
Wow.
that's how my father ended up there, and I was
Yeah.
born there. So,
Now, in the brief time your dad was in the South Vietnamese Army, did he experience any combat?
um, he he didn't really explain much. To me, it didn't sound like he was there for a lot of it. He did explain to me at one point he was his job as a new guy, as a young guy, his job was to go into the villages first to figure out if there was anybody in there that was from the North or Viet Cong. And he said he jumped into like a hut or a house. And it was a room full of guys wearing all black. And only those guys are Viet Cong that wore all black jumpsuits with pajamas. And he said that like, they were all sleeping, and he jumped in right in the middle of like through the window, right in the middle of all of them. They woke up, was startled, went to pick up their guns. He ran out of there. As soon as he ran out of there, both sides started shooting up, and that was pretty much the extent of what he told me. And the
Yeah.
rest he didn't really say much more.
Yeah.
He did explain when he was being rounded up with so like originally before he got rounded up, he was trying to get they ditched all their uniforms, their civilian clothes, and he was trying to get on a boat to go back to the islands. But they were rounding everybody up with military age. he was rounded up, and he said while they were being brought into being processed or whatever, there was like a Vietnamese soldier, he's still in uniform, on the ground with his guts hanging out. He was holding it in, and somebody was trying to give him water, and one of the Viet Cong's like soldiers had a club, hit him in the head, and was beating him. I was like, hey, like he's a traitorous dog. Just let him suffer before he dies, and stuff like that. And like my father
Wow.
said, like he hated the communists. Like
Wow.
yeah, he had a he had yeah he had a lot of hate for the communists, and growing up like he instilled a lot of that into me to the point where like I knew from a young age I wanted to join the military to hopefully fight the communists, but that wasn't the case.